Now, to finish this section of bone growth, we are going to talk about the bone growth that occur after birth. So here we're going to talk about the interstitial bone growth. That is the bone growth that they grow in length. So if you see the baby here is it's going to the adulthood, so it needs to start getting taller and taller, so the bones has to grow. So let's start talking about this interstitial bone growth. Now we're going to talk about how bones grow in length. And to do that, I want to remind you that in this diagram of the fetal development, if you see there are regions that are not completely calcified, and those regions will be key for the mechanism that allow the bones to get longer and longer. So for example, if you remember the knees, we already just talked about that in the epiphysis you're going to have this epiphyseal plate. You remember that it was formed of hyaline cartilage, and there that section is fundamental for bones to grow taller and taller. And just from a very big picture, I just want that you remember that if you see we have one, two, three, and four regions that are in this epiphyseal plate. So what is going to happen is that those regions are going to be, these all chondrocytes are going to be replaced by bone. So here you see that you create a new diaphysis, so the bone start getting longer in length, and this human is going to get taller, and is going to displace all these four regions, upper and upper. So this epiphyseal plate that have this connective tissue is fundamental. This hyaline cartilage is going to be fundamental for the growth in length of the tissue. This is why it's not calcified yet. And as you get older and older, you will have smaller and smaller epiphyseal plate until you finish your growth in length. So now let's go with the names. Yeah, now that you remember the big picture. So let's see all the different components. So here we have the articular cartilage that is also a form of hyaline cartilage. So you find it here and you find it here. In addition to that, you will have all these different four zones that are forming the epiphyseal plate. So you have the zone of resting cartilage, you will have the zone of proliferating cartilage, and you will have a zone of hypertrophic cartilage. And finally, you'll have here the last zone, that is the zone of calcified cartilage. That is the one that is going to be replaced by the bone. So again, here the diaphysis is here, and here you find the new diaphysis that allow the bone to extend longer and longer. So to conclude this section, I wanted to remind you that the interstitial bone growth allow for continued bone growth in infant, children, and adolescents. And here I'm just, well, in the previous slide I showed you schematics. Here I wanted to show you the real pictures. So here you can see a radiograph showing again the epiphyseal plate that again is formed of hyaline cartilage, and in this particular area of the femur of a very young kid that is 3 years old, so it's going to grow taller and taller. And here you have the femur and you have the tibia, and in between that you have the epiphyseal plate. Okay, so just to remind you, in the previous slide I showed you this section, but in long bones you have one diaphysis but two epiphyseal, so you will have two epiphyseal plates. So here you will have this one too, another region here, so the bone can grow longer and longer in both directions. Now, just to finish, in case that you have time, you can try to guess the names of here. Again, well, previously I showed you this section. Now I'm going to show you this section. So this, you will see the names upside down here. So if you want, you can stop the video. If not, I will start right away. So here you have this section, yeah, that is the developing bone of diaphysis. So here, if you remember, this is the diaphysis in this area. Here is the diaphysis, so you will find it here. Now, the second section, here you're going to find the epiphyseal plate. So we're moving, let me change colors here with maybe with blue. You will find the epiphyseal plate in this area, and you're going to find the following sections. The first section will be the zone of calcified cartilage. If you remember, this is the one that is going to be replaced by the other type, by the bone, and it's going to, so this region is going to move. You're going to have a longer diaphysis, and this is going to be replaced and move forward. Later, you have this zone of hypertrophic cartilage. Then here you have the zone of proliferating cartilage. And lastly, you have this zone of resting cartilage. And with this, we are done with the interstitial bone growth. So now let's move into the last type of bone growth. This one that you can see in green, that is the appositional bone growth, that is describe the bone growth in width. Now let's talk about the appositional bone growth. So I already told you that the bones can grow in length. However, they can also grow in width. And here you can see an schematic of the macroscopic changes that you can find during the lifetime of a human, from an infant to an adult. And here you see a clear change in the medullary cavity. That is this section that is inside of the bone. So if you see here, I put it in yellow, and you can see that the diameter increases a lot. And how this diameter could increase? Because there are two cell types that get activated and are working very hard. One that are the osteoclasts, and the other one that are the osteoblasts. So they will have the opposite process. So the osteoclasts that you will see here with this white cross that you see there, they will be reabsorbing, yeah, destroying the bone. So this will allow that the medullary cavity keep increasing and increasing and increasing. Yeah, so the old bone on the outer region is going to disappear. But however, this is not the only process. An opposite process has to happen by the osteoblasts. And the osteoblasts are going to be, and here I have these blue arrows that are indicating the action of the osteoblast. So the osteoblasts are going to make the bone growing wider and wider every time. So, okay, so to summarize, I told you that the appositional growth, it helped the bones to grow in width. Yeah, in particular, the medullary cavity, you see it how it grows and grows. And there are two key mechanisms that are important to understand this process. The first one is that the osteoblast that you see it in blue, those that they will be located in the area where are the blue arrows, they will deposit bones in the outer surface. And in the inner surface, you will find the osteoclasts that they were within the medullary cavity from within. Yeah, so they will destroy the bones to make this medullary cavity wider and wider. So now we're going to talk about the microscopic details of how this bone can keep growing and growing, and how the bones thicken. And I already told you that there is a cooperation between osteoblast and osteoclast. And now I'm going to talk about 4 steps that are described in your textbook that include that this blood vessel that you see here is going to go inside of the bone and is going to become a new central canal, and the bone is going to that section is going to form an osteon, and you will need to form new circumferential bone lamella that will allow the bone to grow outwards. So let's go to the first step, and I remind you here you have this periosteal blood vessel that it will become the new central canal. And to do that, you have to rearrange different components in the bone. So you will have to rearrange the periosteum, of course, the periosteum blood vessels, and you will need to make this change this group too. So here you have these little mountains that are the periosteal ridges that you can see here, and those periosteal ridges have to keep going up while you will end up forming a group here, yeah, that it will make a hole for these periosteal vessels to go downwards. Now that we have this periosteal blood vessel there, we need to close up these ridges. So we have a periosteal ridges fused, and you can see it here. And now you have this endosteum. So endo, it means internal, an osteum bone. Yeah, so you have these two components, and you're done forming this endosteum line tunnel that is located here. So if you see here the endosteum in this third step, you can clearly see that it's looking more similar to an osteum. So what it means is that now we need concentric lamellas. Yeah, so it needs to start forming concentric lamellas. And how these concentric lamellas appear? Because you will have osteoblasts that they will view these lamellas uh, inward toward the center of the tunnel. Okay, and this will end up forming of the osteum. And just for your information, if you see here, they show you in your textbook that this is not a single process. It can happen in another parts of the bone. So here you see again the first step, that now the blood vessel is going to go inside and form another osteum. So here you can see the final step. Here you see very clearly the central canal, and you can see the new osteum with the concentric rings. And so now what happened is that you need to have this circumferential bone lamella. Yeah, you need to grow outwards. Yeah, so it will make the bone grow thicker and thicker. Um, So again, osteoblasts now are the ones that are creating not only the ridges, but now they have to grow the circumferential lamella. And as I told you before, this doesn't happen once, it happened multiple times. And here you see that the osteum formation repeats. So here you have here the initial step, that now this periosteal blood vessel has to go inside and create new ridges, and the circumferential lamella has to keep growing outwards to widen the entire bone tissue. So with this, we finish the 4 types of bone growth. I talk about 2 of them that happen in early embryonic stages, and I talk about 2 of them that happen after birth. So in the first one, they were the intramembranous ossification, and the second one was the endochondral ossification. If you remember, both converge into a bone, but the mechanisms are different. And I also told you about how we're able to grow. Yeah, and to do that, the bones have to change. And so bones can grow in length. And I told you that we have this epiphyseal plate that is going to allow the bones to grow in length. And I also told you about this appositional growth that allow the bones to grow in width. Okay, with this we are done for today. And if you have any questions, just let me know, and have a good day. Bye.